Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. It is so great to see you. I'm turning on my audio just a little bit. We are connected just a little bit different than we normally do. So if there's any issues with hearing me, any issues with hearing my guests, please let me know. Comment, chat, share, interact. This show is designed to entertain you, and I am so excited to have you on. As you can see, my background here is Neuro Mints and Neuro Gum. That is the sponsor of this show, and I'm going to bring up their information so that we can go to getneuro.com. Here they are. Getneuro.com. Functional gum and mints to energize, calm, and focus you in the moment. Specially formulated with natural caffeine, L-theanine, and B vitamin to sustain the mental endurance necessary to maintain your focus, guys. Guys, this works. This works on a girl right here where every online test says I am ADHD to the max. It works like nobody's business. Go to getneuro.com. You can purchase getneuro.com's gum and mints also at GNC, Amazon, and Walmart. So pop into your local Walmart. I have actually seen them when you're checking out a Walmart, which, as we know, I don't like stores with people, so I don't go too often. I'm usually zipping out. I got my blinders up and not saying hello to anybody. But I have been standing there waiting for the cashier, and they do have them stocked where you check out at Walmart. So go check it out, getneuro.com. You can actually log in and get some gum or mints. They have some really yummy flavor. You can get that today. So the one that I'm chewing on this morning is Enlightened Mint. Let me do the little YouTuber makeup trick here so you can see the tin. And these little mints are nice, easy to pop in your mouth. You can suck on them. You can chew them. They're not bitter. They're not nasty tasting like a lot of souped up caffeine products are. 40 milligrams of caffeine in that one mint, which is equivalent to like half a cup of coffee, right? So if you don't want the coffee hag breath, you can just have a Neuro Mint or some Neuro Gum. B6, B12 vitamins, natural amino acids for focus and clarity. Refresh your state of mind with a Neuro Mint at getneuro.com. That's GETNEURO.com. All right, everybody. So I have a great guest coming to the broadcast, and he has spent some time in our United States military. He is the founder of ringsidereport.com. He hosts his own show, which drops every Wednesday morning. It's the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show. He has also recently been inducted to the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame this June 2020. And without any further ado, I would like to bring to the screen Mr. Bad Brad Berkwitt. Brad, hold on just a moment. I'm having a few technical errors, but we're going to get you in here. All right. So, Brad, say hello for a moment while I refresh our screen for a second. Technical difficulties, and here he is, Bad Brad Berkwitt. The show goes on. It must go on, baby, right? It must go on. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for waking up early. Where are you broadcasting from this morning?
Don't tell anybody. Winfield, Indiana.
It's scrolling at the bottom, baby. Everybody's already seeing it. Well, thank you. It's pretty early.
I want to pretend I'm not here.
Well,
I want to be back east.
It's lovely to see you. You have quite a large background history of things that you've done thus far in your life, and they're all really extremely interesting. So what I have here in my notes is that you love boxing to the point at which you are a boxer, correct?
Correct, an amateur boxer from 1980 to 1983.
And were you boxing in the Navy, or was that before your Navy days?
No, I boxed from the age of 12 to the age of 15 in Florida.
Wow.
After we lived in New York, but then in Florida. which is amazing, Elizabeth, because I'm only 26.
I believe you. You're looking mighty fine for 26, I must say. I mean,
Yeah, right.
I'm 18. Could you tell?
There you go.
We are only what we feel in our mind, right? So
There you go. Age is nothing but a number.
man, that is so young to begin boxing. Did you have any pushback from any family members of saying maybe you shouldn't do this?
No, actually, the story goes that I was going to play football at a park, Allen Park in North Miami Beach, Florida, for any of your viewers that are down in Florida. And I heard a noise that went, and it captivated me. It was somebody hitting the speed bag. And if anybody knows about the speed bag, you're hitting it pretty fast, so you're hearing the repetition. So it caught my ear, and I told my dad, what's that noise? It was on the other side of the wall where the table was designed for football. We went in there, and I was just in awe. The heavy bags, the speed bags, people were sparring, kids my age and older. And I turned to my dad, and I said, Dad, this is what I want to do. I want to play football. So he looked at me, and he said straight up, Bradley, if you give it your all, I'll support you all the way. And he did. So for 3 years, I boxed all around the state of Florida, anywhere from Coconut Grove to Lauderdale, which is by Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and had a great time and finished up when I was 15 years old. And I had been a fan since 1975 when I was 7, so I already loved this sport. But then I was involved in a sport, and I actually boxed, so I had that as well.
Did you have any injuries early on where maybe you thought, I don't know?
No, and honestly, it's a sport. Obviously, it's not a team sport. When that bell rings, it's just you and your opponent. But it helps you with if a kid is facing bullying, he's able to defend himself. You know, I'm not advocating for violence, but I am advocating for stand up for yourself. So it teaches you how to, defend, just like martial arts. It teaches you how to defend yourself. And unfortunately, today we have a society where there's a lot of bullies. So, and it's a prevalent problem in society, I should say. But no, never any injuries or anything like that. It just was another step in me loving the sport of boxing. And as you said in your opening, led to me being inducted this year in 2021 into the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame, which was a humbling experience. Sadly, my father, God rest his soul, passed away in '98, so he was there in spirit. But I wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame if it wasn't for my father. So
wow.
It was a great event.
And so then you joined the Navy. And
then I joined the Navy, yes.
In the Navy, you continued to box?
No, I didn't box in the Navy. No, I continued to follow the sport. So I joined the Navy in 1986, which again is amazing because I'm only 26, so I don't know how that math adds up. But joined the Navy, still love the sport, and 12 years, in 1997, while I was still on active duty, because I retired in 2006, I started writing about the sport of boxing in the Navy. And what was cool about that was my senior officers, the admirals and the captains and people that I worked with used me kind of as a poster child in a positive way to show younger troops. I mean, by then I had some time in the Navy, that you could have a life outside of the military and still be in the military. And we, when I went to, like, for example, Korea in 2002, I covered Korean boxing on my time off, like on the weekends or evening time when I got off my job. So it showed people in the military that though you're in the military 24/7, you can still have a life outside the military. So they covered me in the Navy papers and all of that. And I was like, here's the guy that is doing all of these things in the military. So, and that's where the journalism part came in 1997. So it's going to be 25 years here.
Wow. So that's a lot. I mean, I definitely want to get into how decorated you are in the Navy. Thank you very much for your service to this country.
You're welcome.
And of course, man, so I have a question here from a viewer, and I definitely want to get into your break into showbiz, because with all the analytics that you've kept up with and that you reported on through your journalism, it brought you into show business, so to say. I do have a question from a viewer. Are you glad to be back? So when you came out of the Navy, are you glad to be back as a veteran of the Navy, but a civilian?
I'll answer that question. I'm always a straightforward person. The answer to that question would be this. I was in the military. The military wasn't in me. What I mean by that is this. I was patriotic. I defended our country during the Iraq War, the Gulf War first, in country, then the Iraq War. But I'm still a human being. So I was the type of person that when I got out of the military, I could function. Some people, that's it. When they retire, they're like, they don't know what uniform to put on. You got to wear uniforms. They tell you what time you got to be here, what time you got to be there. So I was one of those type of people that I could balance both. So when I got out in 2006, after 20 years and literally 28 days, I was able to transition into being a civilian without any problems. So that's really the straight up answer. No, I didn't have any problems transitioning.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad. I think that's a huge blessing. So many veterans do have a really hard time transitioning. So
and they do.
20 years and 28 days. Why 28 days?
Because, very good question. So I joined the Navy September 2nd, 1986. I retired September 30th, 2006, because you got to go to the end of the month. Then October 1 is when I got my first retirement check. So you had those 28 days in the month of September. So on my DD-214 for time, it's 20 years and 28 days, literally.
How interesting. I never knew that. That makes total sense.
Okay.
Well, thank you for addressing that, that concern. I'm like, well, what in the world was that? Okay, so let's talk about show business for a moment. So you've done a lot of naval boxing journalism, and you're out there, you're running these analytics all the time, and that lands you a great spot in TV with Sports Talk. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So in 2000, I was a recruiter in the Navy in Alexandria, Virginia. Had been writing about boxing since 1997. The sister station of NBC, which is News Channel 8 in Virginia, which was Virginia, DC, Maryland, and West Virginia, the DMV as you call it, but we had West Virginia, became aware of me. The host, his name was Glenn Harris, wound up being a good friend. He had been on TV since like 1991, and he had a sports show that covered, at that time, the Redskins. I know it's the Washington football team now, but then it was the Redskins, and he covered all sports. So when they saw boxing, they were like, wow, boxing was popular in DMV. So they contacted me and said, hey, would you be interested in being Glenn's boxing analyst, coming on the show like once a month? So I was like, yeah, well, it took off. So it was kind of like you're taking questions, but then we had callers calling in, and you could probably relate to this if you ever did callers. They always want to hear themselves on the TV. So you always had that feedback. You have to say, hey, turn your TV down, because they wanted to hear themselves, their question, which was hilarious. So it took off. So I wound up doing that from 2000 to 2012. So it overlapped my time in the military with a break in 2002, because I went overseas to South Korea. So I was his boxing analyst, and it was a 30-minute live show. He'd ask me, what's going on in boxing, and then we would take callers' questions. So it just progressed from there.
So have you found that focusing on boxing helped alleviate a lot of the stress that you were exposed being in all the places that you've had to be in since you were active duty in the Navy?
That's a good question. What it helped me with, honestly, is working with people, because in the military, you come from all different backgrounds, white, black, from the country, from the city, from everywhere. And I had troops that, I had white troops that had never really been around a lot of black people. I had black troops that weren't always around white people. Well, with the sport of boxing, it's a melting pot. You have so many different backgrounds, white, black, Hispanic, and other, especially when you're fighting in Florida. So I had the exposure to all of that. So it helped me in relations of understanding people's backgrounds, where they came from, because when you fought, you would travel all over. So you could be out in the middle of nowhere, or you could be right in the heart of the city somewhere. So you have all of those, kind of like New York City, like a melting pot. So it helped me in the aspect of leadership, dealing with people, understanding backgrounds, of where people are coming from and stuff like that. So that was a plus. Not so much in the stress department. That was separate. That was a separate thing during the war. Was probably the most stress during the Gulf War. But that's how the boxing at least helped me as far as leadership.
Thank you so much for asking that question. I was trying to type out to some of our viewers here, and I wrote elevating instead of alleviating. So that was very interesting, and I can definitely see where our mind would have to be focused on something else to possibly make a smooth transition from all that you've seen. And so now here we are in 2021. Tell us just a moment before we get on to your podcast and your show and the .com and everything that we're here to talk about. Tell us, what was it like? What was going through you to be inducted in the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame?
Probably, if not the top one, the number two most humbling events in my life. Because I'm one of those type of people that I understand where I came from. And I know that you don't get to the next level or you don't get to something like that without the help and support and love of people in your life. And everything that we're talking about today has some way, shape, or form comes back to my father, Alvin Frank Berkwitt. My father was my mother and my father. He raised me solely by himself. Wow. And everything that he instilled in me at a young age to not judge anybody by the color of their skin, but the content of their soul, to treat the janitor like he was the Fortune 500 CEO, that there was no difference. That somebody on the street that may be homeless might have been a Fortune 500 CEO or somebody very wealthy that fell on hard times, and we don't judge people, period, end of story. So to be inducted and knowing that my father was part of that, having Debbie there, my significant other, who helped me when we'll talk about it a little bit later, launching my show. They have my best friend Frankie there when we were the age of 7, and he was the guy that my father always said, "Can't you hang out with Frankie more?" I said, "But Dad, we moved away from Miami Beach. He lives 40 minutes away. I can't get to him like we used to." He was there. So that, and my good friend Ed Tarragona, who's my photographer in Korea, believe it or not, I named him Ed the Eye. So they were all there. So to have all of those people there that were part of my life, outside of boxing, inside of boxing, was just very, very humbling. I don't know if you can see the ring right here. I gotta tell you a funny story. I was at Carmine's last night in Rosemont, Illinois, and the lady said to me, the waitress said, "Is that ring for bowling a 300 score in bowling?" I said, "I wish. That would be a hell of a game, right? 300? That's like a perfect score."
Oh my goodness.
I said, no, I got inducted into the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame. So
show us that ring again.
Yeah.
There.
Wow. So that was the ring.
Look at that. Ah, I love it. I had a couple of scrollers up on the screen. So when you first showed it, we didn't see it. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's just a humbling answer. It was just, nothing, any accomplishment that I ever had has never changed the person. It was just humbling. And the president of the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame, Steve Canton, is just one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever met in my life. So to be inducted where it all started, because I started loving boxing at the age of 7 in 1975. So it all started in Florida. And, then of course I went on in, other places, but that's where my love started. So to get inducted into that particular Hall of Fame was just absolutely humbling.
Do you still box for fitness today?
I do. I have to get back more to it because we just bought a new house. So the heavy bag is hung in the garage. I don't know. I'm a little leery if it's going to come out of the ceiling because I don't know how well they hung it. But yes, I do. At my height, when I am working out, I do everything around a boxing workout. I sure do.
Oh, that's wonderful. I used to. I am unfortunately advised not to do that anymore. But yes, I used to. It's a great workout. So let's get into your show, the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show. Tell me a little bit about the development. What was that moment where you said, "Yeah, I got to do this"?
Okay. We started it. I've made my bones in boxing, journalism, doing interviews. My very first interview out the gate in 1997 was with my favorite fighter of all time. Maybe some of your viewers may know, is Aaron the Hawk Pryor. And he used to put his arm out like this when he get in the ring. He was the junior welterweight champion of the world from Cincinnati, Ohio. Sadly, he passed away a couple of years ago, but we actually met in real life and were friendly. So I used to do them in print. Now, you can relate this, because I'm sure if you've ever done interviews before we went into podcasts, when you would do it on the phone, when it was 50 to 60 cents per minute, and I do long interviews. I'm long-winded, and my people I interviewed, I always like to let them tell their stories. Well, their stories came at a cost, but that's okay. We used to do it on tape. So you would have to play the tape back and type it back like, transcribe, that's the word, transcribe. And I got used to it, but at the point where I didn't have to do that anymore, I was like, oh God, I don't want to do this no more. Transcribe is a pain, and it took us. So Debbie and I thought about, well, you know what? We lived at that time in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I said, you know what? I want to put together a show. We're going to name it after me because it's my interviews. And we started filming it out of the house. And it started out with boxers, local boxers, kickboxers, and MMA guys as well. And if there was a celebrity in town, we try to get them on. Well, we moved. Debbie works for BP, British Petroleum. So in 2017, she got a job here in Indiana, in Whiting. So we came here, and it took a little bit of a hiatus. I had a real nice office. Excuse me, we brought it back. This is oops. I got a thing that says poor connection. Can you still see me?
I can still see and hear you, yes.
Okay, I'm getting poor connection on my end. Okay, so what happened was, pre-COVID, we were doing interviews in my house, mostly with boxers and people in the sport of boxing, trainers. Well, COVID hit, and it knocked that out. As you know, can you still hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, good. Okay, because I can't see you anymore. It's frozen. It says the video will resume automatically when a connection improves. So, but I'm still here. So what happened was, Marielle Trump is a friend of mine, a very dear friend, and I was going to do an interview with her for the very first time, and I transitioned it into my activism side of the house. So I started having more than just boxing people on sports, because what was going on in the country was bothering me. So I wanted to transition. Mm-hmm. She said, look, you really need to do Zoom interviews because it'll open up the world to you. Well, she was absolutely right. It did open up the world to me, because I heard she was my first one in September of 20. Since then, we've done interviews from Ireland, from England, from Canada, and all over the United States, of course, from people from Anthony Scaramucci to the Mike Skill, who you had on recently on your show, who I love, from the Romantics. I've had people on from the Escape Club. I've had on Wing Chung, Melissa Manchester, you name it. Mm-hmm. So Zoom opened that up for me. And that's where the progression went, from sports people to humanitarians, people in politics, people pushing back on things that they didn't like that was going on.
And I have a couple of questions for you about that. So we have spent some time this morning talking about your years in the Navy, your years as an amateur boxer, being raised by a very loving father, as you had mentioned. So it sounds like you have strong fibers at the root. And we do have a lot of things that since early last year, the country has shifted. A lot of different voices are coming out. A lot of different voices are being heard. A lot of different voices were being heard under Trump, now under Biden. On your show, do you get into those political items? And if so, what is your strongest point of those that you talk about most often?
Yes. And it's no secret, if you watch my show, I am not a Trump supporter. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not for any of those things. I'm on the opposite side. But what I try, and yes, in answer to your question, yes, we do get into those. In my talking points, my most important one is I bring on guests that I feel, in my opinion, are moving humanity forward. And that's what it's all about to me, moving humanity forward, whether it's through racial relationships, whether it's talking about police reform, not defunding the police. I'm against that slogan. I do not like to defund the police. I am for police reform. I think we need systemic change within the police force, but not defunding the police, because we need good police. And a good cop to me is a hero, and a bad cop is just that, a bad cop. But we hit on those type of stuff. We talk about, I am not a member of Black Lives Matter, but I support Black Lives Matter. We talk about the LGBTQ community. I'm an ally of that community. We talk about, of course, recently, like what's going on in Texas with the woman's right to choose, which I am pro-choice. We talk about stuff like that. Those are the issues. So I've really taken my show in a different direction. However, not every guest is a political, as you know well, because you do a show, not every guest is into politics. So if they're not, if it's not like Marielle Trump, or like I had Heather Thomas on the other day, she was on The Fall Guy, I already knew she was an activist. I knew that the things that we could talk about. But some people, they don't talk politics. And that's fine. So we don't, if it's a musician and they don't want to get into politics, then we don't talk about politics. But my favorite types of shows are ones where we can talk about all types of things because they're moving humanity forward. With that said, a musical guest, through his talent, like Mike Skill, the Romantic, who you recently had on, he moves humanity forward through his music.
He certainly does.
So I look at him. Yeah, I look at him as a humanitarian because he was given a God-given talent that he chose to use to make people happy. Because you know as well as I do, music is the one thing to me that transcends everything: color, age, religion. You go to a concert, you see all kinds of people together. I wish music dictated more of how people were in society, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. I think music tickles the soul. You know, it bypasses all the external nuances of life and it goes straight to a person's soul. And I do agree with you. It's quite interesting to go to a live physical concert and you look around and you're like, wow, all these souls are so similar and we're all in one room. And if we just walked along this surface layer that society likes to keep us at, we probably wouldn't say hello to each other in passing because you never ever know what somebody's situation is, where somebody's coming from, where they've been and where they're going. So I would love to talk for just a moment about some of the quote unquote wokeness. So what I'm hearing from what you're saying, it sounds like if there was a center, which I believe there is a center, and then there's left and there's right wing, that you're a little bit left of center. I would call myself center. I really can't totally buy into the far left, the far right, but I'm on each side, but I am more center. And so as far as what everybody wants to call woke and woke America, what is your opinion of that? What do you like? What do you dislike?
Well, I'm going to let me piggyback off what you said and answer the question about woke. Actually, I'm not too far left. If someone were to ask me, even though I have people say you can't be, you can be whatever you want. I'm actually very liberal on social issues, and I'm more conservative on spending issues. I think the government, Democrat, Republican, both combined, spend far too much money. Even on defense spending, I was in the military. So I try to be, I don't like the far left of the Democrat Party. Some of it, I think it's too far left. And with the Republican Party, I didn't always feel like this. We might have had it, like Senator McCain. I admire Senator McCain. I thought he was a war hero, absolutely, contrary to what Trump said and attacked him. Didn't always agree on his beliefs, but I thought he was a true patriot and he cared about the country. Same thing with General Powell. He was a Republican, even though I did find out at the end he left the party because of Trump. But I'm not real far to the left. And to be honest with you, I'm really not a political person. I didn't become as political till Trump came into office and I saw the thing he was saying and doing. Woke culture. It's a tough thing because we all are conditioned to say to certain things that we've said, that whether it's through comedy, Dave Chappelle's catching it now. I didn't see the special yet. I know what I've read. I've got to watch the special before I can really comment intelligently on it, his Netflix special. I think we need to be woke, but how woke do we need to be? I think the word woke got taken too far in a sense that you have to understand what some people, rational people, I want to say, are coming from. And we seem to, in this country, take things too far to the right or too far to the left. on a lot of instances. And if you're on the left, and I obviously I'm on the left, and you say anything that's contrary to what the left thinks, then you're no longer on the left. And I don't believe in that ideology. I really don't. I think you can have a difference of opinion. I think you should listen to all. Well, again, it's tough. I'm not going to lie. It's tough with the current crop of Republicans, with this insanity, with the QAnon and all that. I can't accept that. But people that are more rational, Jack Kemp back in the day, or somebody like a Bob Dole that was a Republican, I could definitely listen to more things that they had to say. General Powell and then other people. This current group, it's real tough. So, in answer to your question about woke, I think some of it goes too far. I really do. I think I understand the Me Too movement, and I'm glad that it's there. But I think sometimes we go too far with things, and once you go too far, it's hard to reel it back because you're so doubled down in how you feel and anger, and a lot of it is justified. I understand it. But you have to step back sometimes and say, okay, did we go too far? And that's at least how I was a leader. When I was a leader in the military, I tried to bring all sides together and have teachable moments. Try to meet in the middle as much as you can when you can. For example, and I think this would tie into woke, I am for Colin Kaepernick taking a knee because of why he did it. People wanted to change the narrative. He disrespected the military. No, he didn't. Not to me, he didn't. And I was in the military. And unfortunately, a lot of people that say he disrespected the military never served in the military. They didn't even serve in the Salvation Army, let alone the United States Army, but they got an opinion now. What I say about that is you have the right in America not to like that Colin took a knee. Just like you have the right in America for Colin to take a knee. And I don't want him to lose that right. Just like if somebody doesn't like a protest, if you say the KKK, I don't support the KKK, but in America, you have a right of freedom of speech. So they have a right to protest. I don't have to like it. I don't have to support it. I could be out there counter protesting them. But if they lose the right to do it, then Colin loses his right to take a knee. And I don't want to see that. So unfortunately, there's things in America that we're not going to like on both sides. But if you take away the rights of one, then everybody loses their rights. So I think in a way that ties into woke, and people have to understand it. Now, what you do to speak out against that is another thing. And that's where I come in. I speak out against those type of things.
So in your opinion,
so I think that ties into all that.
So in your opinion, how do you think that the message could get across to Americans a little bit louder, in my opinion, especially some of the younger Americans, just a little bit louder, that just as you said, Colin Kaepernick taking a knee may be abrasive to some, but that is his right. Just like it's the right of others to take a position on their stance on their position, and that is their right. And that's a beautiful thing of what we are allowed to do, what we get to do in this country, that I think is a little lost. It's a little deaf on the ears of some of the younger people to realize you don't get these rights in a lot of other countries to be able to peacefully protest and to be able to speak your mind, to have a platform and say what you believe in because you believe in it. And because you believe in it, it's what you believe in. So if that resonates with some people and you grow a group, you grow a community that is working towards a common good, that's something we get to do here. So what is your opinion on that?
I agree with you, but I'm going to key in on word that you said, common good. Common good is bringing humanity forward for everybody, for poor white people, for poor black people, raising up people in poverty, trying to get the minimum wage up to where people that work 40 hours are not working to be in poverty. Those are moving things forward. But unfortunately, with that said, we have people that take January 6th, for example, which was an insurrection by domestic terrorism. No, it wasn't. You got Tucker Carlson from Fox News that's going to have a documentary, and to me, that's treason. That's trying to say it was a false flag operation. It was Antifa. It was Black Lives Matter. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. If it was, I would be the first one to say that was Black Lives Matter if it was Antifa or whatever. It was a bunch of people that were spun up because Trump said the election was stolen when it was not, and it was proven in states that were run by Republican people that and who supported Trump, who said, no, it wasn't. So you had that spin up. January 6th, for me, as somebody that served in the military, was probably the most disgusting thing that I've ever seen in my 53 and almost 54 years on planet Earth. And to have people say it wasn't insurrection, or they were just peacefully protesting. No, they weren't. They were trespassing. To make Ashley Babbitt, who went there with bad intentions, okay, they told them to stop. They yelled gun, and she got shot, okay? But now they want to make her into a martyr. Now they want to say these guys that did this, women and men that did this, are political prisoners. Stephen Biko, Nelson Mandela, those are political prisoners. So if you want to be for the common good, you can have differences in political, in your political policies. Somebody who's pro-life, they're not my enemy. We're going to probably agree to disagree, but I understand it. But I understand that's their position. I don't have to agree with it. But we became so polarizing on both sides of the aisle on a lot of things. But the old reach across the aisle, I'm going to say, and I'll say it for your audience right now. I lean more towards it. I'm an independent, registered independent. I've been a Democrat, Republican. I left the party Republican when Trump was when he became the candidate. I left because he was not going to represent me. I became independent. I'll remain independent. The common good, like you said, now this is all in my opinion. The common good is getting vaccinated so we can get past COVID. There's always going to be people on the far left and the far right that are going to tell you, if you get vaccinated, they're going to put a microchip. If you walk past the television set, you're going to change the channel because they put something in your body. Okay, whatever. I'm not for that. That's nuts. That's the common good. Getting vaccinated so we can get past COVID, so we don't have to wear a mask all the time. That's for the common good. But you have at least 30% of the country that don't want to do it. No, it's their right. Don't get me wrong. It's their right not to get vaccinated. But it's not for you. For me, you're not going to tell me you care about humanity or you're a good Christian when 30 years ago, Elizabeth, 30 years ago, before this whole mask thing and taking a vaccination got politicized. Politicized, there you go. 30 years ago, everybody for the most part, except for the far left crazy and the far right crazy, would have got vaccinated. Right. Especially after the FDA came out and said, we're good to go, you can get vaccinated. You still got people that won't get vaccinated. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, for me, it ties back into Trump, who wouldn't wear a mask, who got vaccinated in January before he left the White House, him, his wife, and Barron, who I never pick on the underage. I never pick on underage kids. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying Barron because he did get vaccinated, but never said a word. What would have happened back when this started if he would have worn a mask, if he would have handled COVID differently? So when we say common good, I feel that there's things that the Republicans in the past, not this current crop, but in the past that have done some good things. I'm not going to look. He did Operation Warp. As much as I despise Trump, he did Operation Warp Speed, which was under his administration. And if you want to be fair and balanced, you have to say that was under the Trump administration. But they couldn't even get him to talk about that because as soon as he started talking about it, he would start talking about something else, and they couldn't get him to stay on point. So correct. When you say common good, I don't care who it is, who it is in America, because we're talking about America. Mm-hmm. If you're coming together for the common good, it's a beautiful thing. Problem is, we're not coming together. 9/11, we came together. And after 9/11, we went back into this separation again. And you would have thought COVID would have brought us together. We're more divided than we've ever been before, at least in my life.
It's been the most craziest thing I've ever seen because I thought the same thing. Of course, I'm looking at this thing, I'm going, oh my God, this is viral. And you saw it coming across the globe and it's like, guys, it's coming here. So it was the craziest thing to sit and live through and watch as an adult with a formed brain that is willing to look around and analyze things and look at things and see this thing coming. I was really very hopeful that's exactly what would happen after 9/11. I remember after 9/11, and we were talking backstage, that's your city, it's my city, that's where we grew up, and it was really heartbreaking to see what had happened that day. And that Christmas, the decorations became a lot of flags, snowmen holding flags. The flag was out on the front porch, on the front of the house, and all the trees are decorated for Christmas. Like, it became very, very patriotic. And I was so happy to see that, to see the country come together. So I do have a question, talking again about common good. And guys, this is giving you a little bit of a taste of the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show, which we're going to talk about, I promise, right after this question. Voting in America. So coming together as a common good, all the calamity that we've seen and we've heard from different administrations, and it's been rigged, it hasn't been, and this has been proven, and this hasn't, and, insider video, this and that. It's like, oh, it's just agonizing. But what is your opinion? Does your vote matter?
100%. Your vote matters, and if you don't vote, to me, you don't have any right to say anything. You really don't. You must get out. You must get out and vote. And I'll be honest with you. I wish that think about this, Elizabeth. Every other election for Senate, it's all popular vote. It's all popular vote. So we have the Electoral College where it decides the delegates. But the senators, your local elections, it's all by popular vote.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know people are going to say, well, there's more people that are Democratic than there are Republican. Well, there's a lot of people on both sides that don't get out and vote. It's and I'll be honest with you. I think more people voted this time because of COVID, and Trump pissed them off. And if he would have handled, and I actually predicted, I thought Trump was going to win, which he didn't get my vote, but if he would have handled COVID 50% better, to me, he would have probably had a chance to win, because keep in mind, 62 million people, I think, voted for him the first time, 74.2 voted for him the second time. So 12 plus more million voted for him, even after in my opinion, all the horrible things they did in 4 years. Now, President Biden also got the most votes. Trump got the most votes for president. Biden got the most for someone running for president. Your vote absolutely does count. I'm not for this gerrymandering in districts. I really wish they would get rid of the Electoral College. I wish it was popular vote. So meaning you go out and vote for your candidate, whoever's got the most votes wins, because that's how it works for senators. That's how it works for congressmen. But we don't do that for the president. And I'm not a fan of that. And I do not believe that the election was stolen. I believe that was Donald Trump. Knowing the election, now he may believe it now because I feel he's insane, but he knew would come out at 2:00 in the morning and say, "I won. Stop counting the votes." And here's the thing: he told his people not to mail in votes. This is fact. He voted for Mar-a-Lago, and so did Melania, by mail. So he was his own worst enemy. Now he's telling him, he's getting mad and telling him not to vote in 2022 or 2024 if he doesn't get his way. Well, hey, I hope they don't vote. And they get rid of these Marjorie Taylor Greens and these Lauren Boeberts and these Matt Gaetz and Ted Cruz's and all of them. But in answer to the question again, yes, your vote counts. Whichever way, it's your American right. You go into that voting booth, you're not supposed to, no one's supposed to know who you voted for.
Mm-hmm.
It is your American right. No matter which side you're on, you need to get out of it.
Well, thank you very much for that. We agree, absolutely 110% agree. Not that matters here in this universe or in this space, but just to, back that up on this show. Yes, I agree. Get out and vote. Definitely. Every single year, vote. So
Yes.
Let's talk about your show and how everybody can view your show. Who's coming up on your show next?
Okay, so if you go to YouTube and type in Ringside Report, and I still can't see it. This connection is driving me nuts. AT&T, I don't have anything good to say about you right now. But go to YouTube, Ringside Report web TV channel, and you'll find my shows. I have different things there on my channel. The Bad Brad Berkwitt show is, and thank you so much for giving it publicity. I appreciate that. And my guest, I do Bad Brad starts with just me talking, my opinion. We know opinions are like cookies. Everybody has one. But I honestly do try to be fair. But it is my opinion. I have on there little clips of the different shows that we do. And you also can visit my website, badbradberkwitt.com. That'll tell you upcoming guests, what's going on with me for my appearances, like today, and so on. Upcoming, I'm probably going to have on, I just did a show, which was the hardest show I've ever done with, again, my dear friend, Marielle Trump. She's been on 4 times. But I did a review of her book, The Reckoning. I did the review first a couple weeks ago. And then I had her on the show for an hour and 30-minute show. And we talked in depth about her book, which talks a lot about race in the country and the atrocities that have been done to the African Americans over the years from slavery. It was a very tough show to put together and a very tough show to do for both her and I. And I said on my show that book is her legacy because I know how hard it was for her to write it. I just had on Heather Thomas, for everybody that remembers The Fall Guy from 1981 to 86 with Lee Majors was The Fall Guy. She was just on. She's an activist. I never really like to put out any guests that come on until I firm it up, as you know, in this business, and when I drop the press release. So we're in talks for some more big guests coming out. We had Mike Skill on, who you had on for the Romantics, great guest. And we got some big names coming up. I'm still working to firm up the dates, and I'm putting together a panel with some very, very prominent ladies only panel talking about issues in America and that they're facing. That's going to be coming up soon. I'm not going to put any names out yet, but I've already got the names of the people. I'm just working out the dates and times. So that's going to be really special. All I'm going to do is host it and make sure everything flows smoothly. And I think that's going to be a big deal.
Well, I'm really excited. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing for humanity and for getting these issues out there. You know, this is not easy to really put yourself out there on the line, so to speak, and bring up difficult topics to talk about. You know, of course, there's CNN, there's Fox News, there's ABC, CBS, all this, and that's what they do. But outside of that, for some of the more homegrown efforts, such as yourself, myself, it's very difficult to put yourself out there because, you know, we get paid in eyeballs. So it takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing. I want to say thank you for doing what you do. You know, it just from my heart. I mean, I think we're coming from the same place. There are so many different issues that we really deeply agree upon. And just thank you for having your show. So everybody, for updates, go to badbradberkwitt.com. That's BADBRADBERKWITT.com. You can also write it down from the ticker that's flowing through the bottom all the way through until the end of the show. And you can visit ringreport.com. That's www.ringreport.com. That's RINGREPORT.com. And Brad, thank you so much. I wish you magnanimous success going forward. You've had magnanimous success from your past. You're really quite a diamond there of very interesting information, and you're a force to be reckoned with. So go get them.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on your show. I greatly appreciate it. And I actually do watch the show, and I love when you do different characters because it cracks me up. Because we got that. We didn't talk about it, but I acted as well, and I love your background. It's hilarious, and I fully support your show. And if you ever need anything, you know where I'm at.
Thank you so much. Well, I'd love to have you on again. I know that we did not get to that piece of it of Brad Berkwitt, the actor. So I can't wait to have you on again if you'll have a moment in space and time for me again.
Always.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful broadcast. I hope you have a great Saturday. Go do something fun pre-Halloween. Possibly you have a costume to don tonight. And be safe and be loved and be blessed. All right, everybody, that was a great interview. I loved Bad Brad Berkwitt. Again, go check him out on bradberkwitt.com. That's BADBRADBERKWITT.com. Check him out. Check him on Facebook, on YouTube, on his website. And everybody, as always, We are blessed. You are blessed. And I love you. Stay tuned. Up next is the news, and I have a financial forecast coming your way, along with some really heartfelt events coming up. In one is tonight, actually. If you're out there in Los Angeles, I have a great one that is in the Bay for you tonight. And the rest of them are in the first 2 weeks of November. They're going to pull on your heartstrings. They're all to support humanity and the loved us and each other. So until next time, I will see you actually